Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. So in today's video, I'm back with another card sketch and we're going to make two cards again. One where we follow the sketch quite strictly and the other one where we just add a little bit of our own personality to the card. So I'm using this paper pad from alinacraft called Garden and a new flower die set. I've got a shop bought 6x6 card blank and here is the card sketch that we'll be using today from scrapbook.com. I found it on Pinterest and I thought it'd be a great one to use today. Now I had a strip of wood effect paper left over, so I thought that would be perfect for the strip across the back. And then I'm just deciding which two of the pieces to choose for the card sketch. I don't know about you, but I think the hardest part of using a card sketch is actually picking the papers. It can be quite a challenge. Now, I don't want you to get too worried about the measurements today because I'm just making it fit how I think it looks, similar to the sketch on my card blank. If you do want the measurements, let me know in the comments below and I can provide them. Or if in future you'd prefer me to give them in the video, let me know. It's helpful just to know what people prefer. But I'm not a massive measurer myself, so today I'm just cutting them down so that they look like they're going to sit nicely based on the card sketch. So I've stuck the first two pieces down flat using some glue and I'm just going to add some foam tape to that square panel and pop that up in the centre. I'm then going to cut a couple of really thin strips from that wood effect scrap as well, just for those extra two little bits that were on the card sketch. Now, initially I thought about leaving them off on this card, but then when I started trimming them down and looking at them when they sat on the card, I thought, yeah, actually, it really just finishes the design off nicely. So I have done that on this card, but you'll see how we customise that on the second card. So I'm just going to add some glue and stick those down. Once they're all in place, I've gone ahead and die cut 6 flowers using the same flower die. And now I'm going to use my grip mat. This is the new waffle flower grip mat. It's basically a big sheet of photopolymer and it can be used to hold your stencils in place, but also die cuts when you're ink blending. Now, for some people, it's probably a bit of a wasted purchase, particularly if you don't mind getting really inky fingers. But I really wanted a way to ink blend on die cuts without getting inky fingers because I just find that I end up making an absolute mess of whatever project I'm working on. So I'm trying it out today. So I've put my flowers on it and I'm using my blending brushes. These are mainly Funky Fossil blending brushes, but I do have a few cheaper ones as well. And I've gone over it with some vintage photo, but it's not very strong in the middle. So I just come back in with a little Q-tip and I'm just going to add that ink in the centre there. I'm then going to go over it with some leftover ink of carved pumpkin. And then I'm a bit more happier with the blend that's on there as well. I had added a little bit of mustard seed, but there wasn't really much left on my brush. And the great thing about the stamp mat is it simply just wipes off with a bit of water and my e-cloth. So yeah, definitely a worthwhile purchase and I know I'm going to be using this more and more. So I'm just following the card sketch here, popping the flowers down. I've done the first 2 flat and then I'm just popping the third flower up on a little foam pad. And then for a sentiment, I've already got a load of pre-stamped heat embossed sentiments and this great die. These are all from alinacraft as well. So I'm going to choose that I Miss Your Smile today and I've popped that up on some foam tape as well. And then for the gems, I'm just going to add a few clear water drops just to finish this card off. And then that'll be the first card finished for today. So once I've attached those gems down, you'll be able to see the card a little bit more closer up. And of course, I will add some photos at the end. So for the second card today, I'm going to use the Love Blossoms paper pad from Funky Fossil Designs. And I'm going to add some matte layers this time using some mirror gold cardstock. And again, we've got the hard decision of picking which papers we're going to use. So once I've decided on the papers, we can then start on the matte layers. Now I'm using a 6x6 card blank again, but this time I wanted to have a white border around the edge. So I've cut a piece of gold mirror cardstock to 5.5 squared. I'm then cutting the next piece of pattern paper to 4 7/8 squared. And then I'm going to add another gold matte layer. This time it's 3.5 by 5. And then I add another piece of pattern paper that's just 1/8 of an inch shorter. So I use 2 7/8 and then 4 7/8. For the centerpiece, I then decide I need another piece of pattern paper. So again, I found it a little bit difficult to decide which piece to choose. So I layered it up as it was going to sit on the card, and then I found it a little bit easier to find something that was going to blend in nicely. It wasn't too contrasting with the other colours that were already there. Now, I had a little scrap of this white floral leaf pattern, so I decided to go ahead with that. So for this, I cut it down to 3 3/4 squared, and then I did a gold matte layer slightly wider this time at 4 inches squared. That was kind of dictated by the width of the scrap of paper that I had, but also because it was a centerpiece, I thought it would be nice for it to have a slightly larger border. For the flowers this time, I'm going to be using these funky floral dies from Funky Fossil Designs. I don't think they're stocked anymore, but if I find them, I'll link them in the description box below. So I'm going to go ahead and use the tulips, a flower and a leaf for this one. So first of all, I'm going to glue all of those matte layers together. So I'm using the Cosmic Shimmer glue here because metallic gold cardstock reacts with the Collall, so it can just strip the coating off completely. So just be mindful of that when you're using metallic cardstock. Also, if any glue seeps out the side, you can just quickly wipe it off with your finger. But if you are worried about smearing the metallic cardstock, then of course you could always use double-sided tape. For the first layer, I'm just going to attach that to the card base flat, and I did use the Collall on the back of that. Then for the centre panel, I pop it up on some frame pads, and then the main centre panel, I'm going to use some frame tape just to attach that down. That just adds a little bit of extra interest to the card and gives it a little bit more dimension. I've brought back in my waffle flower mat again, and I'm just laying out all those die cuts on there ready for the ink blending. I decided to use some saltwater taffy, some tattered rose, and then I use a little bit of shabby shutters and rustic wilderness on the leaves. So I'm just mainly using the excess ink that's on my brushes. You'll see in a minute that the tattered rose is already a faint colour and there's not really much ink left on my brush, so I do just ink that up and add a little bit on, and then I do the tops of the tulips with that colour as well, just for a little bit of definition, and then I just go over the leaves with the rustic wilderness, and then that just gives a nice variation on the leaves as well. Then we can attach them down in the same way we did the other flowers. So I'm adding the tulips flat with some Cosmic Shimmer glue, and then for the bigger flower I'm going to use a circle frame pad, and I'm just going to attach that down, and then the leaf I'm just going to add a little bit of glue and tuck it under there. We'll just do the same on the other side as well, and this is where you can really just customise the card. You know, you can use whatever dies that you've already got in your stash and really just make the card sketch your own. Really, the card sketch is there just to give you an idea, and sometimes when you're really struggling with creativeness or your crafty mojo, it's a great way to just get creating, use up some of that pattern paper. You know that however it finishes, it's going to look good because you followed a lovely sketch, and yeah, it's just a great way of using up your paper pads as well. For the sentiment, I chose to use the Spring Showers stamp set from Funky Fossil Designs. The paper pad actually was released with this stamp set, so I thought I'd find a sentiment in there that would go well with the papers. So I choose to use this one that says "Live your life in full bloom." For the sentiment, I'm stamping it in Versafine Clear Twilight ink, just to soften it rather than using black. So this is like a really dark navy blue. So once I've stamped that down, I'm then going to trim it down, add a matte layer of gold metallic cardstock underneath it, and then we can pop it in the centre of the card on some frame tape. To trim the sentiment down today, I'm using my Tim Holtz mini trimmer. This has been a great purchase, and I keep that on my desk all the time. It's perfect for trimming down smaller things, and yeah, it's really lightweight, so it's easy to use. Here I just use the Cosmic Shimmer glue again just to attach that down to the metallic gold, and then we're able to just pop that up on some frame pads in the centre of the card. And then that's the second card finished. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's video. I hope that it's given you some inspiration of ways to use a card sketch. Please let me know in the comments box below which one's your favourite, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.